Here with Layla Smith, and it is the 31st of August,
possibly
day 17 of the trip, and we're at your caravan in the woods, which is amazing.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Extraordinary Ordinary Women podcast, sharing life's adventures. My name is Frankie, and this is a podcast where I interview extraordinary, ordinary women and non-binary folk as part of a 3,000 kilometre cycle around England, Wales and Scotland. Interviewing people older than myself to show that you don't just have to do it whilst you're young. You'll hear all about their adventures and what they get up to, as well as their answers to my big life questions. Like, what does authenticity mean? Did you have a clear sense of direction through life? And what advice would you give to your younger self? This is episode 9, where I speak to Leila, who lives off-grid in a caravan in the woods with her dog Rolo. In this episode, Leila tells us all about her love of travel and some of the incredible trips she's been on, including cycling to Rome with Rolo in a trailer. We recorded this interview in the woods where she lives. It was really peaceful, right up until I started recording. You will never believe this, but an aerobatic plane started practicing tricks during the recording. We've managed to cut out the worst of it with some help from podcast hero Fran Trauskis. You can still hear it in the background at some points, but I hope this doesn't deter from Leila's incredible stories. Can I ask how old you are?
41.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I always start off by saying, for people that don't know who you are at all, could you give me a bit of a snapshot of who you are and what you do?
So, I'm a freelance interior designer, usually freelance, and then in between contracts, I go travelling or do an expedition or something. So freelancing works really well because it means that you haven't got a long list of jobs that you've quit on your CV because they are short, which means that you can just have lots of time off and do lots of wonderful things. And then my home life, I, like you say, live in a caravan in the woods. I've been here 9 years. Very basic. I'm off-grid. Don't know what else to say about it, really. Yeah.
That is amazing. Already I've got so many questions. I want to talk very quickly about you being an interior designer and working freelance.
Yeah.
Kind of just to get it over with, and then we'll get into the adventures.
Cool.
How did you become freelance?
Well, I didn't do it intentionally because I always thought you needed a secure job. I had a mortgage, I had bills, I had a flat, and I needed security to pay for those. But I think I got made redundant. Well, the company I worked for did something anyway. And so I thought, well, I'll go travelling because I had some money. I thought this is the perfect time just to go off for 2 months and then come back and get a job. So I'd given myself enough money in the bank to get a job for 1 month when I got back. And I got a job pretty easily, but it was a contract. It was a short contract, and I was like, oh no, that's no good. I need something permanent, but I also need a job. So I took the contract. It paid me almost twice as much I would normally get paid. And I thought, well, this is really good.
I'll do this again.
And then when that finished, a company that I used to work for, I got in touch with them, but they only wanted me on a contract as well because they didn't have enough work for a permanent job. So again, I earned more with them than I did when I was permanent. So I thought, well, this is good. That contract finished, because the thing is as well, when the contract is going to finish, so you can plan to go travelling. So I booked another travelling trip, only a short one again, and then I came back, and then I contacted some of the people that I'd worked for, and they had me on a contract. And then so it just kind of spanned like that, really. I just thought, well, this is the perfect way to travel the world, to not have to keep quitting your job, because that never looks good. But if you're a freelancer or a contractor, you're expected to have gaps in your CV. So at the bottom of my CV, I've got all these crazy, wonderful things that I've done, and like they're all always a big talking point, and so I end up talking about my life rather than my career in an interview. And then I think that just works really well for me, and so I've just got really good at what I do. I've specialised in doing contractual drawings so that the design can get built. That the bit that I do when I'm freelancing is the bit that the designers don't want to do. So they want to do all the schemes and all the really pretty bits, and they don't want to do the drawings. So I'm going in doing the stuff that no one else wants to do. I'm really good at it. I can charge a lot of money for it, and that means I don't have to work all year. Yeah, so it works really well for everybody, really.
That's amazing. I feel like there's going to be so many people that are like, that is what I want to do.
Yeah, because a lot of times I go to like talks and adventure weekends, and everyone's saying, oh, you need to quit your job, give up your house, give up everything, go on a world tour that lasts a year or two. And that's pretty scary for a lot of people to give up everything. And I'm just sitting there thinking, you don't need to give up everything. Like, just give yourself a bit of time, do some freelancing. You can still come back, have your career. You can still come back, have lots of money. You don't have to come back and work in Aldi or something. You can still have a career and travel. And I don't think that is expressed enough, really.
Yeah, I'd agree 100%. Like,
yeah.
When I first set up as freelance, I was kind of like, well, I'll just do this until I run out of money.
Yeah.
I'll do it till I run out of savings.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not actually running out of savings. And now I look back and I'm like, why was running out of savings the aim of what I was doing?
Yeah.
And so how's your work-life balance now?
Well, the thing is, because I live like so far out of civilization, well, not so far, but I live quite remotely, and most of the companies that I work for are in Birmingham, so that's like a 3-hour round trip, and I've managed to get a job up the road which is only 20 minutes away. So at the moment I did go permanent, which isn't too bad because it means that I do get more life in the day because I'm not doing a big commute. I've also reduced my hours at work because I work 40 hours a week, so I now just work about 20 hours a week, which gives me a lot of spare time. Yeah, so it's working really well actually, and because I'm permanent it means that I'm very happily furloughed, so that's a dream come true. So I'm quite glad that I took the permanent job for a little while.
Worked out well with timing.
Yeah.
Tell me about your adventures. What was the first one that you did?
The first one I did, I did what was called at the time a BUNAC, and it was like a working holiday in the USA. So the company organised the visa and the flights and everything, and I organised a job. So I was a lifeguard in a water park for 3 months in America, and that was pretty crazy. And then while I was there I did some travelling and bits and pieces, and that was my first insight into travelling. And then while I was at uni I saw an advert in one of the rooms that was like working with monkeys abroad. I was like, wow, like that is so cool. Like, I'm going to go work with some monkeys when I leave university. So I organised it all. And so it was voluntary conservation work. So I did a month working with lions, a month with monkeys, little vervet monkeys, and then a month with penguins, and then a month completely just travelling around. And when I told people that I was going to go backpacking, do this travel trip after uni, they were all like, oh no, don't you think you should get a job, and what about your career, and oh, you'll never get a job if you don't get one straight from uni. And I was thinking, well, that's crazy, because this is the only time I'm going to have to go travel the world. So as soon as I get a job and a career, I thought, like, my travelling's over. I just thought it was completely backwards what everyone else was thinking, and they obviously thought I was crazy. But I went and done it anyway, and I came back, and then within, I don't know, about 3 months or so, I got a job at this really good design firm in Birmingham. So I thought, well, everyone's like got their wires crossed really on how things work.
Was it hard to still go when everyone was telling you were crazy? And...
No, Not really, because once I've got an idea and I'm certain of it, then I don't really see how their point of view is going to be right. Although I did have those niggles thinking, oh, will I ever get a job? And then I just thought, well, this is something I've always wanted to do, is to like go and work with these animals in Africa. So I thought, well, I'll just take the chance. And I'm so glad I did, and that I didn't just fall into the trap like everybody else of getting a job after uni and, not having seen the world.
Sounds amazing. And what happened next?
Then it was that was when I started the freelance work after that. So after uni, I got the job that I just mentioned, and I was there for 4 years. But, I wanted to go travelling, but I got the mortgage and the career. And then after that is when I started the freelancing. So since then, I've been freelancing about 15 years, which has suited me very well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And what adventures have you done since then?
I've been doing a little bit in Asia and bits like that. And then when I was becoming just about to turn 30 was when it was the recession in 2008. And it was getting harder and harder to find work. And I was also approaching 30. And I've never ever in my life wanted to be 30. And I was like, oh my God, it's so old. And I was having a bit of a breakdown about becoming 30. And then I thought, well, after 30, you are officially old, because you can't get a visa to go to Australia for a year. You can't go to like all these countries in the world, like New Zealand and that. They say, well, you can't have a working holiday visa after 30. I thought, well, God, that really means it's my last chance. So I went to Australia for a year, so I didn't have to be 30, and I absolutely loved it.
Amazing.
And I had such a good time there. And then I came back, and I just decided that I didn't want to keep having to come back and get a job. So I thought, well, I want some residual income. So then I've spent the last 10 years working on a retirement plan so that I don't have to rely on work. So I've done less travelling the past 10 years, but what I have been doing is saving so I can buy properties and get money and invest in things. So I was hoping that would all be complete by now, but I've got about another year to go.
That's pretty amazing though. That is still pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed I didn't hit the 40, but 40 years old retirement. But it's not too bad. Yeah. And so, yeah.
Is that noise Rolo digging?
Sorry, that's Rolo digging in. Well, he's trying to make his kennel comfortable. Yeah. So, yeah. That's it. I mean, my other travel adventures, in 3 years ago, I decided that I wanted to go travelling. I've got a Cocker Spaniel, so I thought, well, I want him to come with me. Going backpacking is easy now. It's not a thing. I can just pack my bag and go anywhere in the world because I've done it so many times. But I wanted a challenge, and also.
Sorry, just wait for this to just pass over a sec.
He's probably going to do a loop or something. It's one of those acrobatic airplanes, which is fine. But every now and again, he just comes and he just makes such a racket to my peaceful life.
That's okay. Sorry, carry on.
So, yeah, in 2017, I decided I wanted to go travelling again, and I've got a dog, a Cocker Spaniel, and I thought, well, I want him to come with me, and because I've been backpacking so many times, it's quite easy for me now to just pack a bag and go, and I wanted more of a challenge. And since being in Australia, like going into the outback, and you just realise how much we've got on our doorstep in Europe, there's just a phenomenal, like I never appreciated how much we had. And I thought, well, I want to see more of my own continent. And I thought, well, I've always, since I was 7, wanted to go to Italy. So I thought, right, I'll go to Italy. And I thought, well, I don't want to put the dog on a plane. So I thought, well, I can either hitchhike, which didn't really seem very appealing, or I can walk. which I thought will take forever. I thought, or I can cycle. And I thought, well, if I cycle, I'll get there quicker. I can put the dog in a trailer so he can have a rest every now and again. So I thought, well, yeah, I'll cycle to Rome. And I thought, well, it's probably going to be difficult getting somewhere to stay with the dog, so I'll wild camp. And sorry, if I can tell you this, the conversation that I would have with people. So I decided to cycle to Rome, and so people were like, oh, where are you going next? What's your next adventure? And I'd say, I'm going to cycle to Rome. And they're like, oh, you must be a keen cyclist then. And I'd be like, no, I don't even have a bike yet, and I've never even cycled more than 10 miles down the canal. And they're like, oh, so you must be doing lots of training though. I'm like, no, I'm just going to train on the go. And they're like, well, where are you going to stay? And I'd be like, well, I'm just going to wild camp. And they're like, oh, that's all right then. Yeah, I've never done that before either. And they're like, well, are you going to go round the Alps? No, I'm going to go over them. And I'm like, oh. And they just must have thought I was absolutely bonkers. But yeah, we got there. Me and the dog got there in the end. So
that sounds amazing. And also, like, so many of the conversations that I've had in the last month or so.
Yeah, but to me it was logical. It's like, well, I put the dog in a trailer, and I thought, well, if I can even just cycle 10 miles a day, you know, put my tent up, all I've got to do is just carry on doing that every day till I get to Rome. So as long as I keep moving, if you can get through day one, then you can get through every day, I think. And then eventually, if you don't give up, you're going to get there. So I just thought, well, I'll get there when I get there.
And what was your route to Rome? How did you get there?
So my route to Rome, I did a EuroVelo 5, and because I was so naive and didn't have a clue, I thought the whole route would be like signposted, like the Sustrans, and there was no signposts until I got to Italy, when I actually knew what I was doing by that point. And the EuroVelo, you've got one main website which tells you an overview, and then for each country that you go through, they've got their own website. Like we've got the Sustrans, and France would have their version. But then, so each country's website, the route description didn't match the map that they had, and then the map they had didn't match. Like sometimes they'd have like a list of towns, and they would be completely different to everything else. And the GPX files on these websites didn't work, so you kind of didn't really know where you were supposed to be going. And most of the times I'd be like in some farmer's field with mud up to my ankles, and roads that were not even roads anymore, like they hadn't been roads for 20 years, because they weren't even a footpath now, because there was trees down that you couldn't even get past. So most of the time I didn't really have a clue where I was going. And then each country, like the routes didn't meet at the border. There was like a no man's land in between of like 30 miles where you had to just figure it out. And yeah, it was a bit of a logistical nightmare really, and I didn't really know where I was going, but I ended up in Rome. So
what countries did you pass through on the way?
Now my geography is really terrible, but France, Belgium, Luxembourg. I think I went back into France, then a little like day in Germany, Switzerland and Italy, I think.
Did you have a favourite place that you cycled through? Or
Well, probably the first section of Luxembourg, because I'd had such horrendous like road conditions, and the signs weren't there, and my GPX was not working, and Google was sending me all over the place. But in Luxembourg, I got there, and there was like, I think it was 60 kilometres the first section from the border into Luxembourg city. It was a dedicated cycle track, and it was paved, it was smooth, there was signs telling me where to go. It was about 2 metres wide, maybe 2.5 metres wide for 60 kilometres, and all I saw on this cycle track was like 2 other people, and it was the best cycle track I'd seen in like weeks. So that was good for cycling, because it was just so easy, and that's how I thought the whole journey would be. And then Italy was also fabulous, because I was dreading cycling in Italy, especially with a dog in a trailer, because you hear about, you know, crazy Italian drivers and narrow roads and potholes and all these things. But Italy had really invested in the infrastructure for this cycle route because they want the tourists. So the route was signed, it was like quiet roads, it was beautiful scenery, it was such an easy journey compared to the rest of Europe. Yeah, so I would definitely say cycling in Italy is a good thing to do and not to be scared of it. Not the drivers weren't that crazy. There weren't that many potholes, really. I don't think there was more than what we've got in England.
I was going to say there's definitely some very dodgy roads in England.
Yeah.
How was it taking your dog with you?
Oh, it was just the best. Yeah, it was hard work and I did have to think a lot about him, and so I'd try and go a route where there was lots of water because it was quite hot. So every time I saw some water, I'd let him out to have a swim and to cool down, and it was generally absolutely brilliant. He got a lot of fuss, so I'd be like in a shop getting supplies and then I'd come out and he'd be like a tourist attraction. So I'd come out and there'd be like, you know, 10 or 15 women all around the trailer trying to pet the dog, and he would just be sitting there. And by the end of the trip, I'd come out the shop and he'd just be looking up at me like, please help me. He had so much fuss, he just didn't need any more. I've never known a dog just not need any more fuss, but it was just like, I don't need it anymore. I've had enough fuss to last me a lifetime.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah.
And did he stay in the trailer most of the time?
Yeah, because he's a Cocker Spaniel, he doesn't know when he's tired. So originally, I thought I would cycle. I wanted to do as much off-road as possible so he could run down the canal and through the parks and have a real good doggy adventure. But I'd be cycling and he'd be running around, and then when it was break time, he wouldn't know it was break time and he would still continue to run around and be crazy, and I'd put him on a lead and attach him to the trailer so he couldn't run, but then he'd just like sit there barking because he wanted to be let off because he wanted to go swimming or something. So in the end I thought, he can't run all the way to Rome, he's going to be absolutely knackered. So while I was cycling, I'd put him in the trailer, and then while it was break time or any time I saw some water or something, we'd have a break and he'd get out. And so we continued like that all the way. So he did spend a lot of time in the trailer, but I'd stop at least every 45 minutes, an hour, just to let him run around and have some doggy adventures.
Sounds like a great life.
Oh, he was loving it, yeah.
Was it a lot of extra weight to carry him in a trailer?
Yeah, so he weighs 16 kilograms and his trailer's 16 kilograms. And then you've got like his bed and his water, and he has dry dog food at home. And when I was on the trip, I initially tried to put him onto tin dog food, so I'd buy 2 tins, one for morning, one for night. But then that didn't agree with him, and his poor hair was going all greasy and he was lethargic. So I put him back onto the working dog dry dog food, but you can't buy small bags of that. So I sometimes end up carrying another 6 kilograms of dog food for him. So yeah, it was a lot of weight, but it was so good. Like taking him, I wouldn't have traded off the weight and not took him. It was worth taking all of that. Yeah.
How long did it take you to get to Rome?
89 days.
Amazing.
Yeah, I wasn't going fast at all, but yeah, I didn't want to go too fast either. Just wanted to take the time and have fun. Not make it about just getting there, the destination, but make it about the journey to get there.
And if anyone had never cycled before and wanted to do a cycle tour, is there any like advice you'd give them about starting or?
I would say basically just go for it. Yeah, just don't worry about what everyone else is going to say, because as long as you can pedal for one day, even if it's only 5 miles, you will eventually get to wherever you want to go. People were telling me that I needed to take like, you know, extra wheels and extra tires and all this extra stuff, like extra tents in case my poles break, and like ridiculous really. But I just made sure I had good quality kit so that hopefully it would last and wouldn't break, because I think if your kit fails and you're in the middle of a country, you're going to be screwed for a few days till you can get a replacement. But other than that, I'd say just go and don't really worry about everything that might happen, because everything that you worry about is not going to happen, and there will be challenges, but they're things that you will never even have ever thought could happen. But then there's always a lot of people to help you. Like the people that help me, it's just always, when you need the help, it's always there. So when I was in Italy, I hadn't seen any cyclists for like 2 weeks. Something happened on my bike. I think the gears broke, and I was due to go over the Sisa mountain range. And I thought, well, I can't get over there towing the dog with no gears. I thought, I need to fix this. And then, lo and behold, I found this retired couple was cycling this day, and I hadn't seen anyone for 2 weeks on a bike. He just helped me. He basically fixed my bike there and then, this old man. And yeah, it was just fabulous that just happened right there on that day. And things like that happen all the time. So I can't even fix my bike. Like, I don't know. I can fix a puncture, but I can't fix anything else. But there's always people, and especially warm showers, that can help you and tell you what they're doing so you can learn on the way.
Yeah, I'd agree completely.
Yeah,
definitely. And can you tell me a little bit about your caravan in the woods? How long have you lived here for, and how did you move here?
So I've been here 9 years, and it's my dad's land, and part of my retirement thing, like 11 years ago or something, I thought I need to give up work. So I thought, well, my dad's good at making a plan and things. So I said, Dad, I need to give up work. I need a plan. And he said, well, why don't you move to the woods, which is where I am now? And I thought, no chance. Like, I thought, I don't even like the countryside. I don't like being alone in nature. I'm petrified of being in the countryside, even in the daylight. And I thought, no, that's not for me. But then I thought, well, actually it could work. So I decided I would give it a go. So I moved here with just a touring caravan, borrowed my dad's dog so he could look after me while I was here. And I moved in the October, and my mum was like, you're crazy, why don't you wait till next spring? You don't even like the cold, you're always cold, you hate the winter. And I was like, no, if I'm going to try it, I just might as well get the winter out of the way, see what happens. So I moved here for the first winter, and there was a lot of learning to do, and a lot of, it was hard the first winter, but I got through it. And then I thought, well, I might as well stay here for the summer. And then that was 9 years ago, so I'm still here now.
What sort of learning was there in that first winter?
Well, I just had to learn how to live like this. So there was a lot of condensation because it's such a small space, and I had a wet dog. You're cooking and washing in there, and it's hard to get rid of the condensation in a caravan, and I didn't really understand how much condensation there would be. So in the winter I don't boil things to eat on the hob because of the amount of condensation it takes. So I just cook everything in the oven in the winter, and then like washing my hair, because I've got long hair, and waiting for that to dry in the caravan is like even more condensation. So I'd usually have it like cut shoulder length because it's less drying time. And then the dog would be wet, and so because the amount of condensation, like things would blow up, like my laptop, and my phone would break. It was just there would just be so much. And then power as well, learning about how much power I can use, because I've got a solar panel now, and so I know how much power I can use to how much I've got on charge. And when I moved here, I didn't have any slabs, and I didn't have the lean-to, so all that would be muddy. Everything would be muddy, and the field would be muddy, and there was just mud everywhere. It was like living in Glastonbury. But now that I've got the path, the slabs and the lean-to, it means that everything can stay, it's not as muddy now.
And I know I asked you all this yesterday, and this is probably the questions you get all the time, but like, you've spoken a little bit about the solar panel, but what do you do for like electricity and water?
So I've got a solar panel in the field, which is probably 200 metres away. Got a battery, a leisure battery on there, which is constantly on charge. And then I've got another 2 batteries, one on the caravan, which is like for the lights and just the lights. And then I've got a container, like a container next to the caravan, which is about the same size as the caravan, which is more like a shed with my bike and stuff in. But in there I've got another battery which charges up like electrics, laptops, phones, the blender, anything like that. Charges up torches. So once one battery on the caravan or in the container is flat, I'll change that with the battery on the solar panel and have them on a rotation. So one's always charging for when one's flat. And then water. So when I first moved here, there was no water either. So I've got 2 30-litre aqua rolls, which are like big barrels that you roll along the floor and you put water in them. Well, there was no tap here when I first moved, so I'd have to put those barrels in the car along with the battery because I didn't have any solar panel, and take those to my parents, charge the batteries up at my parents', fill the water butts up, and then bring them back. But now I've got a tap. I've got a tap installed at the top of the field, so that's about a 10-minute walk. So I just roll the aqua rolls up to the tap and then roll it back and then pump it into the caravan. But I don't really see that as a chore because I have to take the dog out twice a day for a walk. So I just fill the water up on the dog walk and then it just becomes part of the dog walk, so it's not really a problem.
And with the solar panel, do you ever run out of electricity?
Once a year, every year, guaranteed, all 3 batteries die because there's always it seems a 3-week window where it's just completely grey in the middle of December, and so everything just goes flat, and then I'd have to but I don't know this until everything's flat, so I'll put all the 3 batteries in the car and then take them to my dad's and have to charge them up on the mains. But I expect that now, so it's not a problem. I just know that that's going to happen.
Amazing.
But apart from that, I don't run out of electricity. But now I've also got 2 really big battery banks. So if all the leisure batteries die, I've got a backup now for the leisure batteries, so I can at least still charge my phone and whatnot. I've got everything I need, I think, and I don't need I don't miss living in a house. I don't miss having all that stuff and all the bills and having to clean it all and, just all the stuff that comes with living in a building, really. Yeah, I love the simplicity. I don't know, I think most people just think I'm a bit weird, living in a caravan in the woods when I could have a nice cosy house and not having a secure job and just bumbling around and then going on all these crazy adventures. And
that leads me really nicely to my next question. So I do get what you mean, and I feel the same when I'm working freelance and when I'm working seasonally. There's a lot of whether you're just gonna settle down and get a job. Do you ever feel like you're going against the grain?
All the time.
And if so, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, I don't really feel like I fit into most people's idea of a normal female in the Western world. But I just think when I'm on my deathbed, I don't obviously think this all the time, but I just think, well, would I regret? I don't want any regrets. And if it means that I'm a bit weird or whatever, then I'm willing to put up with that, because I don't want to be old and then realise that I've missed out on stuff just because no one else wanted to do it. So I'd rather just crack on with it. But I think I embrace the weirdness, because there's always other people that are weird as well and that do crazy things. And I think that once you know that, then you find those people as well, and then you realise that there's loads of... I didn't know anyone else lived like this, really. But since I've been living here, I know I've met so many other people that want to live off grid and that don't want any bills and want to live either in vans or just being a nomad. So you realise that there's other people like that too. But I think when you're a teenager or in your 20s, it's quite hard because you really feel like you need to fit in, and you think, well, everyone else is doing all this stuff and they're settling down, they've got the job and the house, and think, well, I don't want that and I don't want to be stuck in that situation. So I just bumble along, and then, yeah, I think once you embrace your weirdness, then you kind of meet other people like that too.
And you talk now about the fact that you've got your plan, but have you always had a clear path?
I've always known what I didn't want to do. So I never wanted to settle down, I never wanted to get married, I never wanted kids, I never wanted to feel trapped. So I always knew that, even though I didn't know anyone else, everyone else I knew, because I grew up in a small village, like no one else wanted that. Everyone else was like having babies and getting married and having kids, and I was just like, well, I'll just have to be on my own for the rest of my life then, because if all my friends are having babies and they don't want to travel the world, I'll just have to go on my own. So I did, and then I realised that there's other people like that too. So yeah, I always knew what I didn't want, and I stuck to that. And then I think when I was in my 30s, so after I came back from Australia for the year, I felt really lost after that. And after travelling for a year, I had like the adventure blues when I got back, and I didn't even know the adventure blues was a thing because I'd never heard about it, and the internet was not really that good as it is now. But I did a bit of research. I was working away, so I'd work away Monday to Thursday, and I'd stay in this backpacker hostel while I was working. And everyone was like, why don't you just like rent a house, like a room in a house? I'm like, oh no, that's far too permanent. Like, I don't even want the job forever. I'm not going to rent a house. I'll just stay in the backpackers, and then I can chat to like backpacker type people and feel like I'm traveling. And so I stayed in this backpackers, and then while I was there, I think it was like 9 months that I had this job, I found out about Anthony Robbins. I forget what book it was now, Unlimited Power or something. And I read this book, and I didn't just read it, but I studied it. So over the course of while I was working, during the week, I basically made my life a study and studied myself and realised exactly what I wanted and how to get there, and how to put this, and how to get the life I wanted, because I didn't want to keep coming back from travelling and having to start again and get a job, have no money, and all my clothes have holes in because they've, you know what it's like when you come back from travelling. So I thought, well, I want money while I'm travelling, but I don't want to travel to work. So I kind of, by reading this book, and I'd like make notes about me and what all the things that were in the book, I'd have a list of things, and then I kind of like at the end of the book I wrote down the life that I wanted. So I got this vision of a clear vision by now of what I wanted, but I didn't know how to put this into place. So I was still a bit lost, but I knew I needed to give up work. Well, I wanted to give up work, and I didn't want to rely on a paycheck every month. So that was when I asked my dad about having a plan, and he suggested I move here. So yeah, I've got no bills and I haven't got many outgoings, but I still need money. And I thought, well, I still need money, which sounds crazy because I thought I could just live off my savings forever, but savings run out. So I've still got a car to run, I've still got a dog to feed, I've got to feed myself, and I'm not just going to be happy sitting here, listening to the birds every day. So I want to be going out having adventures and meeting people and doing like loads of hobbies and doing loads of fun stuff, and they cost money as well. Even if you're just going to travel to somewhere, you need money. So that's why now I still go back to work, but I don't have to work all year. I could probably work 3 or 4 months of the year now and pay for my lifestyle for the whole year. So I still work, but I don't have to work a lot, and I live very simply. So it means that I think I've got everything I wanted when I set out my plan 10 years ago. Yeah, I do like to have clear vision of where I'm going now.
That is amazing, and I want to read that book like immediately.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time trying to learn about what I wanted and be very clear about how I wanted my life, rather than just bumble along for the next 50 odd 60 odd years of my life and just bumble along into all different things, which is okay. But I knew I wanted a definite thing, and I knew I wanted to be able to not rely on work and to be able to travel.
And how do you think your journey has shaped who you are now?
Well, I'm very clear-minded. I know what I want. I know what I don't want. I'm willing to say no to people and things if they don't fit into my plan. But if everyone has a clear plan rather than just haphazardly going into life, then you get better quality, I think. Yeah.
And what's one thing that you know about yourself now that you wish you'd known earlier?
Whatever situation you're in and whatever life throws at you, you will be okay. Like, everything's going to be fine. Like, I mean, I haven't really put myself in many situations where things are not fine, so I would like to push the boundaries and see where that goes, you know. Yeah, I don't. That's a hard question.
It is, isn't it? No, I think that's a great answer there.
Yeah.
And although you say you've not put yourself in that many difficult situations, being shin deep in a muddy path with a dog in a trailer sounds pretty difficult.
But since getting back from Rome, I've learned about all these other adventurers, and they do some crazy things. So, you know, yeah, they do such extraordinary things that I think, well, I haven't really done anything that crazy, you know. So
I mean, yes, but there's also a lot of people that think that cycling to Rome would be like the most incredible thing ever. So just because you've done it, don't put it down that much.
No, it is incredible, and it was life changing. Yeah. But now I think, well, what's the next big thing? How else can I challenge myself? Because I think the only way to learn and to grow as a person is to keep challenging yourself.
Do you know what the next big thing is?
Yeah, well, not definitely, but I have got some ideas bubbling around, but I can't say yet. Yeah.
We'll have to come back for a part 2.
Yeah, I haven't figured it all out yet. But yeah, there's always something bubbling around in the background.
Yeah, definitely. I've been asking everybody about authenticity.
Yeah.
And what your authentic self means to you.
I think it's being honest with yourself, with other people, doing what makes you happy and not what makes everyone else happy, because you can't please everyone else. So as long as you're not harming anyone, and I think as long as you're making yourself happy, then people should be happy for you. Yeah.
And I really liked what you were saying earlier as well about like when you sort of embrace your weirdness.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is like embracing not necessarily what makes you sort of weird, but what makes you unique.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Just be your unique self, and don't just do things because everyone else is doing them. Do it because you want to do it, not just because it's going to make you fit into the crowd, because you will eventually find your own crowd and your own unique friends that you can all embrace your unique weirdness together.
I love that.
Yeah.
What do you think bravery is?
Well, I have a hard time with that word, because people say that to me all the time. They say, "Oh, you're so brave." And I have never once in my life felt brave. Like, I think bravery is, you know, people who are in the army, you know, fighting, having like guns firing at them, bravery, giving birth. I mean, how the hell can people do that? I don't know. Like, I can't imagine doing something like that. All that stuff I find is brave. I don't think, when people say to me when I'm cycling to Rome, oh, you're so brave, I don't feel brave. It makes me cringe when people say that. Yeah, I think brave is doing the bigger things and not just going on a cycle adventure to Rome. Yeah, so I find that word really hard.
That is so interesting. What an interesting answer. And my question after that usually is, so would you describe yourself as brave? But
No.
obviously no.
No. I suppose when I first moved here, because I was terrified of everything and I was terrified of the dark, I was petrified of everything. So I suppose I was brave then because I was scared. Yeah, I think bravery is maybe putting yourself into situations where you're scared but overcoming that fear. So moving here, I did that. Cycling to Rome, I wasn't really scared. I was naive and stupid. I didn't have a clue what to be scared about. I just thought I was going on a really easy cycle trip, which turned out to be quite hard.
And what do you think happiness feels like?
I'd say happiness is something that is not permanent. So happiness is like a short-lived thing which makes you feel really warm inside. Whether people get that from going shopping or having a hug or jumping out of an aeroplane or whatever that is, having a bit of chocolate, I think, or having a good conversation like we are now. But it's not a permanent state, so I think trying to be content is a better thing to do, because that means that you're content with what you've got and how your life is. And if you're content, then you can feel happy and peaceful, and yeah, it's a more permanent state to be content. So to get a life that you're happy with and you're content with, then hopefully that's more lasting than just happiness on its own.
Amazing. Awesome.
Yeah.
I think we started to talk about this a little bit earlier and I almost jumped into it, but then I thought I'd still save it for the end anyway.
Okay.
But what perceptions do you think there are of women? And then I'm also going to ask you how they match up to your reality.
I have grown up in a traditional household, so where like my mum stayed at home and looked after the family, and my dad went out to work, and my brothers have got that same kind of dynamic with their wives. And so I was brought up very traditionally, but then I never wanted that lifestyle of being a mum and staying at home and doing all that stuff. So in my personal experience, and say because I grew up in a small village, that is the kind of way that things go. Like the man goes out to work and the woman stays at home. And although that may have changed a bit now, because that was 20-30 years ago, I still find that is still the same thing. And so it is more a case that the man goes to work and the woman stays at home, looks after the kids. And I'm just like, well, why can the man go out and have adventures and go for the weekend away and do all this fun stuff, and the woman's looking after the kids? It's like, well, that's not very fair, is it? And I know that's not the same in every relationship and every family, but then I don't know, because I read all this stuff on, there's all these women's groups now and trying to influence women to go out and do more stuff. I guess that's a good thing. So maybe I think it is still very sexist out there, and I don't think a lot of men realise how sexist it is still. And I think it's like that with equality in most things as well. So unless it's really pointed out, which I think a lot of women are trying to get the message out there now, that it is still not that equal. And I think because you're a woman, like say cycling to Rome, I think they thought I was going to end up in a right pickle and I'd be vulnerable and like men would be preying on me and going to get murdered if I'm on my own and all this stuff. But actually going out there as a solo female, people actually just try and help you more. So I think you can use this to your advantage, not to take advantage, but as an advantage, that if you're a solo female traveller, people are going to really try and help you because they think that you're vulnerable. You actually get a lot more help with, you know, people fixing your bike and offering you cups of tea and just generally wanting to have a chat with you to find out what the hell you're doing on your own. You know, so people just approach you more, even if it's just for a conversation, to find out what you're doing. So I think the world is it's not that you are vulnerable as a female, but also you're exposing yourself to such fantastic opportunities as well.
Yeah, awesome. I just got 2 more questions for you,
Yeah.
and then we're done. So, do you have any female role models?
Wow. I suppose Anna McNuff. Yeah, she's fabulous. Absolutely. And I suppose Ness Knight. She's also been doing some pretty cool stuff. I mean, I think she went in a canoe with a couple of other females down the Amazon River and she's done some stuff in Africa. But these are only women that I found out about since I got back from Rome. So before cycling to Rome, I didn't really have any at all. And it's only since then that I've found all these Facebook groups with all these fabulous women in that are doing like really cool stuff. So yeah, it's only recently that I've had role models. Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, I'm gonna like put links to the people that people recommend.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, they sound like good people. And what piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
I'd say just be bold and just don't worry. I worry a lot. I think I'd say like go on more adventures. Although I think I've been on as many as I could during my life, so I don't feel like I've ever missed out on anything, but I would like to, not worry. I'd say just go and enjoy life.
I love that.
It's a bit a simple answer, but I don't know. I think I've lived my life the best that I could have done.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've missed out, so.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And is there anything that you thought I would ask you that I haven't asked you, or is there anything you'd like me to ask you?
I think you've asked a lot of questions.
I know.
So I don't know. I think I've said everything. No, I think that's everything I could think of about my life that might be interesting.
What an awesome conversation that was. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you liked Layla's stories, please take a minute to think of one person who you think might enjoy them too, and pass the adventure on. Thank you so much for being part of the journey so far. There is only 1 episode left of season 1. It's with Ruth, an incredible ceramic artist, who tells us all about her adventures along her local brook, paddling in a craft made out of a rubber ring, and looking for items that have been thrown away to reuse in sculptures. It's not to be missed. There is so much exciting news for season 2 and the rest of 2021. I can't share it all now, but it is going to be absolutely jam-packed. There are over 40 more conversations that I've already had with extraordinary people. I'm going to be starting live events over on the IG channel every week, and I've got so many more plans for different community events and speakers and ways to bring us all together. I am so excited. If you want to keep up to date with everything that's going on, especially in between seasons, the best way to do so is to head over to extraordinaryordinarywomen.co and sign up to the fortnightly email. I'd love to see you there. Thank you so much again for being part of the journey so far. I'll see you next Monday for episode 10 of the Extraordinary Ordinary Women podcast. Until then, keep on being extraordinary.